Hello, Moon Crafters. Welcome. This is Craft of Moon. This morning I received Dr. Laszlo's email from the Horoi Project, and it was about the first book of Abu Mishar's Secrets of Astrology. And when I was reading through that email, I got to point number 8 and point number 9. Point number 8 being on the method of the Haranians, or the revolution of the cosmic year, and point number 9 being on the rising of the dog star and the events signified by it. And I was inspired by these passages to look at what using that methodology for this year, 2025, would entail. And so I thought it was really interesting. I took a bunch of notes, and I'm going to go through those today with you. And first, I'm going to read the passages that were in the email. And then I'm going to go through some of my notes as a result of my applying the methodology that I extracted from those passages to our current year. And then I'll talk a little bit about the Haranians historically towards the end of the video, and then talk a little bit about this methodology of the delineating on the cosmic year, using the cosmic ascendant for the year. So on point number 8, on the method of the Haranians, or the revolution of the cosmic year, it reads like this in the email. Look on the 19th of the month July, at the night of the dawning of the 20th of the same month, and wherever the moon is, consider that sign as the ascendant of the cosmic year. And if you find the moon in Aries, there will be much cloudiness and many rains in that year, and the grain will be fine and oil will be abundant. But if in Taurus, there will be much rain at the beginning and the end of the year, much fear in the land, much cold and frost, various wars and famines. That was an interesting passage. I happened to go look at our chart for this year and see where the moon was going to land. And in fact, it does land in Taurus this year on that day, and on the 19th of July. So the next part of this passage is, and I'm going to put the chart up in a little bit, and I'm going to talk through some of my notes on this delineation for this cosmic year starting in July. I know it's a little bit far ahead to look, but I think it's relevant, especially given all the circumstances that are unfolding now, to get a good look at what we might be looking in for the year starting in July, for the cosmic year that the Haranians were predicting. The second passage was on the rising of the dog star and the events signified by it. And it reads, if the day on which the dog star rises belongs to Mars, there will be much floods and much snow. And in the southern region, there will be drought and many ships will be in danger. If it is the day of Mercury, wine will be plentiful, there will be many deaths of old people, and the winter will be dry, but the spring wet. If it is the day of Jupiter, field mice will be abundant, and there will be death of cattle. If it is the day of Venus, the winder will be severe. Spring, I think that was, if the winter will be severe. Spring will have much rain, and the harvest will be rich. And if it is the day of Saturn, there will be many winds and plague among four-footed animals. A lot to take in there. I looked, and on this particular day, it's going to be Sunday, I believe, when Sirius makes its rising. It's heliacal rising. So I thought that those are the passages just as they are. And I've gone through this year and taken significations from that passage. I've extracted kind of the methodology that they're using there and applied it to our current circumstances and the way that the cosmic ascendant will be landing for this year and where the dog star is rising this year as well. I'm going to put the chart up on the screen here so that you can look at the configurations as I'm talking through my notes. All right. So I've got my notes here, and I'm going to be reading a little bit from them because I didn't have time to like really memorize the notes or anything like that. But so just kind of bear with me a little bit. But I have five kind of points that I have brought into my notes, and I'll read you the 5 points, and then I'll go back through and talk through some of the details of those points. So the first point is this is going to be a year of economic instability and revolutionary financial shifts. Second, a year of intellectual and media shifts, but also leadership turmoil. 3, a focus on homeland infrastructure and the decline of old leadership. And I'm talking about these generally across the world. Most of my adult life, or at least half of my adult life or so, I've lived outside of the U.S. So I don't want this to be too U.S. centric. I am living inside the U.S. right now. So there will be some viewpoint from that, but definitely I'm thinking of this as a global kind of delineation. 4, a year of global power shifts and revolutionary governance. 5, a time of psychological unrest, spiritual awakening, and hidden dangers. So those are the 5 kind of major umbrella themes that I was putting out there. You can see here that on the 19th of July, or this is actually for just after midnight. So the chart you're seeing will be for July 20th, 2025 at 12:38 a.m. Located in Berkeley, California is where this chart's geolocation is at. And here I have the ascendant just entering Taurus and the moon still in Taurus towards the late degrees before it moves into Gemini later in the day. So according to the Haranian method, Taurus is the cosmic ascendant for the year beginning in July of 2025. And in the chart, you will notice that we have Venus is in Gemini. Venus and Uranus are in Gemini. And Gemini, with Taurus being the ascendant house, Gemini is the second house. So for Venus and Uranus in the second house of Gemini, this can talk about economic unpredictability. We're talking about financial markets may be erratic, with rapid shifts in currency values, trade policies, and commercial innovations. Venus in Gemini suggests opportunities in trade, communication, and digital commerce. But Uranus brings shocks, unexpected monetary crisis, financial scandals, or new forms of currency, perhaps digital or decentralized finance. I think that you'll see a lot of these kinds of themes are already building as we are preparing here in the spring to enter the rising, the cosmic rising, or the cosmic ascendant in July. The Taurus ascendant seeks security, but Uranus disrupts. Many may shift toward alternative economic systems such as bartering, crypto, or sustainable resource sharing economies. Trade agreements and international commerce will be highly volatile, with Gemini's duality indicating alliances breaking and new trade partnerships forming. That's interesting. That's dealing with the significations of Venus and Uranus in Gemini, an air sign, in the second house, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So those significations, you'll see those coming into that. The second point, a year of intellectual and media shifts, but also leadership turmoil. This is dealing with the configuration that we have in the third house, which is Jupiter and Sirius and the Sun, all in Cancer in the third house. And Cancer is the exaltation sign of Jupiter. So here we have the themes of power of media, law, and information. We can see a great emphasis on education, knowledge, and mass communication. Media figures, journalists, and educators may play a pivotal role in shaping public narratives. Cancer signifies emotional appeals, nationalistic rhetoric, and concern for history and heritage. We can expect a resurgence of traditionalist versus progressive debates, especially around national identity, security, and governance. I know we're definitely seeing these themes already building here in the US, but I think that there's probably going to be more of these themes spread throughout the world in the next year as well. And again, this cosmic ascendant is starting in July, so we're just in the buildup to this right now. Jupiter amplifies the need for truth and justice, while the Sirius Sun brings prominence and power struggles. The rise of influential or controversial leaders and major decisions made by judicial bodies that change societal directions. The third point was a focus on homeland, infrastructure, and the decline of old leadership. Now, this is coming in through my interpretation of Mercury in the fourth house in Leo. Domestic policies, real estate, and infrastructure. These are the themes for this particular placement. Leo Mercury suggests a bold governmental communication, possibly declarations of sovereignty, pride-driven domestic policies, and charismatic leadership. Real estate and property markets may become highly speculative, with rising costs in luxury properties and a possible instability in lower and middle class housing. Public discourse will be dramatic and performative, with an emphasis on national image and cultural heritage. Mars, conjunct the South Node in the fifth house of Virgo, speaks of the themes of leadership struggles and the fall of old elites. So this is really going to be interesting. We're seeing a lot of themes around this. I don't know what's going to happen, but these are just the themes that are coming up when I read the signs in these houses and placements. Mars in Virgo demands meticulous action. But conjunct to the South Node, it indicates the end of certain power structures and possible resignations, health-related issues affecting world leaders, or the exposure of past errors in governance. The entertainment industry, creative fields, and youth movements could experience upheavals due to censorship or the reevaluation of societal morals. Point number 4 was a year of global power shifts and revolutionary governance. And I'm looking for this part of the delineation. I'm looking at the significations of Pluto in the 10th house of Aquarius. The reshaping of government and societal structures. Pluto in Aquarius signifies systemic transformation, particularly in technology, governance, and collective organization. Old world power structures, corporate elites, and oligarchs may crumble while decentralized government, technological innovations, and collective leadership models rise. Now, this is really interesting because I'm just like reading the signs into these, reading the symbols into these signs, the zodiac signs in the houses. And it's interesting because we're seeing such a strong oligarch assertion in the US right now. And to think that in the next year to year and a half, we might see the fall of oligarch systems it's really interesting for me to reflect on that as a signification of Pluto, but it's absolutely true. And it makes me think that there could be really rapid shifts that take place over the next year and a half, and things could shift really quickly, and it could be unsettling for a lot of people. Another signification I have written down here for Pluto in the 10th house of Aquarius is public uprisings or technological revolutions may redefine power, shifting toward futuristic humanitarian models. So hopefully, I mean, those sound kind of interesting. I don't know what to think of those myself, other than, it seems like in the U.S. we're far from that, but other parts of the world, they may be much more close to those kinds of things. I know it's popular in the U.S. to kind of bag on China, but could be China is closer to those things. Or like I said, we could see some pretty radical and quick shifts here in the U.S. around those themes. The fifth theme that I wanted to talk about was a time of psychological unrest, spiritual awakening, and hidden dangers. And I'm pulling these significations from Saturn conjunct Neptune in the 12th house of Aries, with Chiron in the 12th house of Aries as well. This is really talking about spiritual crises, deception, and hidden struggles. Saturn conjunct Neptune, or Saturn in Aries, demands pioneering action, but Neptune clouds clarity. This could indicate disillusionment with leadership, a struggle between individual power and collective responsibility, or the exposure of hidden agendas. Again, these are just some notes that I jotted down, some reflections as a result, as it relates to these symbols. Chiron in Aries in the 12th house suggests wounds related to self-identity and national identity crises. Nations may struggle with their historical wounds, past aggressions, and questions of sovereignty. And that makes me think up a lot of the kinds of queer and transgender rights issues that are going on right now. And I didn't go confirm it in the news, but I was told that one of the executive orders that Donald Trump issued was to remove the gender X marker from passports, new passports being issued, which kind of speaks to the idea related to self-identity and the crisis around those things. So it'll be interesting to see where this next year goes from here on. There's a lot of things in the movement. So the final kind of synthesis, or kind of the final notes that I put, kind of putting all these points together, was we're looking at unstable economic systems and the rise of alternative currencies, digital finance, and unexpected economic shifts. So we're seeing more and more in the US, at least, we're seeing more and more states contemplate bringing cryptocurrencies in as part of their reserves. We're seeing media power and intellectual upheaval, the role of mass media, academia, and judicial rulings shaping public consciousness. So it'll be interesting to see what that plays out on a world scale in the U.S. I know all eyes are going to be on the Supreme Court for these kinds of things. Domestic policies and leaderships, real estate booms, dramatic nationalistic narratives, and the fall of certain leaders. Now, these are just the symbols that are coming out of the chart based upon their house placements and the signs the planets are in, and placing the ascendant with the in Taurus, the cosmic ascendant in Taurus. So I just think it's really interesting how some of these old techniques can cause us to really reflect on the current circumstances that we're going through. Governance overhauls and the rise of technocratic or collective power, a fight between old ruling structures and futuristic decentralized governance. I think that theme is going to be really picking up and growing strong, especially with all the AI and the cryptocurrencies out there. There's more and more cryptocurrencies being launched all the time. And it's almost the Wild West for those kinds of things. We're also going to be seeing psychological, spiritual, and existential crises, deep inner conflicts within nations and individuals, hidden agendas, and other deception or enlightenment on a mass scale is something I put there as well. So who will benefit this year? A couple notes I have here are those who adapt to rapid financial and intellectual shifts, innovators in technology, finance and decentralized systems, those with strong spiritual foundations who can navigate existential uncertainty. I think that's an important one. Let me read that one again. Those with strong spiritual foundations who can navigate existential uncertainty. Governments and leaders who embrace technological governance, futurism, and collective progress. So we'll see which government leaders around the world fit into that category. And some notes on who might struggle in this year, the 25 to 26 year starting in July. Those relying on old, rigid economic and political models. Traditionalists resistant to change in governance, finance, or media. Weak leaders who lack clarity, decisiveness, or adaptability. And the overly materialistic or power-hungry as Pluto and Aquarius and Saturn, Neptune dissolve ego-driven pursuits. The overall theme, a year of massive transition between the past and the future, where old structures will be tested and broken, and new paradigms will begin to form, especially in the realms of economy, governance, and spirituality. So that was a lot to take in. I know there is a lot that we're dealing with as a global community with all the changes that are taking place. There's so much happening. So it'll be interesting to see if any of that takes place. I found it really interesting to kind of dig into this Haranian methodology, and I just found it really interesting and fun to kind of explore the chart. I'd never really done that before, and so it was fun. Hats off to Dr. Laszlo and the Horoi project that he's doing. It's a great project, and just a shout out to that. You can find it on Patreon, and definitely recommend supporting that work of translation of ancient texts. So just kind of some background on the Haranian. So that was kind of like the delineation, and here's the section I'm going to talk a little bit about the historical background, which I didn't know a lot about the Haranian culture, but I think it resonates especially for Craft of Moon, because the Haranians they originated from the city of Haran, and they're known there for the temple to Sin, the Mesopotamian moon god. So I think that's fits right in here with our Craft of Moon theme. The Haranians were likely the descendants of Mesopotamian pagans who resisted conversion to Christianity and Islam. They were They were a religious and philosophical group from Haran, an ancient city in Upper Mesopotamia, modern-day Turkey, near the Syrian border. One of the things that's interesting to them is the Haranians adopted the name, I don't know exactly how to pronounce this, but it's Sabi'un, or the Sabians, which we get the term Sabian symbols in astrology. The Sabian symbols are the symbols that are delineated out for all 360 degrees of the zodiac, named after that. The Haranians were strongly influenced by Hellenistic and Neoplatonic thought, incorporating elements of Hermeticism, Gnostic and Chaldean traditions, Platonic and Aristotelian philosophy, as well as ancient Mesopotamian star worship. They were polytheistic, venerating planetary deities and celestial bodies. Astrology was central to their worldview, and they had an elaborate system of celestial influences governing earthly affairs. The Haranians were famous for their astrology and astronomical studies, blending Babylonian astrology, mathematical concepts from the Greeks, and philosophical traditions from them, Persian influences, and they preserved and transmitted key works of Ptolemy, Aristotle, and the Neoplatonists to the Islamic Golden Age. They played a key role in translating Greek astrological and philosophical texts into Arabic, influencing Islamic astrology and later European Renaissance. Abu Mishar, though not Haranian himself, was influenced by Haranian astrology, and his astrological writings deeply shaped the medieval Arabic, Persian, and Western astrology. And this translation that was released on the Horai Project, it was a translation from Abu Mishar. And then the Haranian method in astrology had systems of astrological forecasting, and those were dependent upon the heliacal rising of fixed stars, in this case Sirius, which we talked about today, and the planetary conjunctions and their effects on world events, and the annual predictions, which I just ran through today, the annual predictions based on lunar placements and the cosmic ascendant. So those are really interesting kind of things about the Haranians. I definitely think it's worth doing some deeper study if you're interested in them, and do some searching and Wikipedia reviews and whatnot. Then I also kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the method of determining the cosmic ascendant, the moon's placement on a fixed date. In this case, July 19th. So July 19th every year, when sunset happened, so now we've shifted from a day to a night chart. The moon is night is the domain of the moon. So where the moon was after sunset on July 19th was the sign that was to occupy the rising sign of the first house. And this year that happened to be in Taurus. But they have, there were delineations for all the different signs. So it was kind of like based on which sign it was going through, you would pull out the themes of that sign for the year ahead. The second thing was the heliacal rising of Sirius. So on the just on the moon, like some examples that I wrote down, and these aren't coming from translation. These are just some of my own thoughts around it. But like, for instance, if the moon happened to be in Aries, storms, heat, military activity. Taurus, we could think about agricultural stability and threats of war. Gemini might be unstable trade, spread of knowledge and rumors. These are just, some thoughts I had. And, you can kind of go through the signs yourself and think about what kinds of themes might come up from the year ahead if the moon happened to be placed in that sign. And, just like this, you can go through and put a chart up and look at the other planets and how they're influencing as well. And in this particular delineation, I kind of blended the two, the cosmic ascendant as well as the heliacal rising of Sirius, which happens just a few days later in the same month this year. So yeah, I think that those are really interesting. And they also talk about using planetary configurations at key ingresses, such as in the equinoxes and solstices, and looking at annular solar return for the equinox chart. So a lot of interesting stuff with the Haranians, and I'm not going to go through all of it. I have like 10 pages of notes there. I'm not going to go through all of that, but really fascinating. I enjoyed kind of the exercise, the process of going through this based on getting this email from the Horai project. I hope you got some, I hope it was interesting for you, and you got some value or something to reflect on for the year to come. And until next time, keep your eye on the sky and make a wish upon a star.